Hello and welcome back to Getaway Day. As always, I am Mason, he is Gautham, and we are here to talk about who surprises us the most out of all of Major League Baseball. Uh,
Sufficiently.
I am sufficiently surprised by some of these guys. You may be thinking, sufficiently doesn't seem like the right word. Yes, it is. And I'll tell you why. Because if I were more surprised, it would be too much. I think that's fair, isn't it?
Yep. It's the perfect amount. It's sufficient.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, but before we get into that, Gautham, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Um, we got warmer weather. We got like thunderstorms and stuff here, but making it through and excited for summer.
Yeah, so speaking of summer, it is starting to truly become summer here in at least the Midwest. It's been about 90 degrees here the last couple of days. Baseballs are starting to carry a little bit more. A lot of games that I'm going to are a lot closer on the calendar than before. But there's a lot of guys that, well, I guess now that it's becoming summer, that means that we've had a pretty substantial amount of the season pass. I believe we're just past a quarter of the way through the season. And we've seen some guys who have been playing much higher than any of us expected. A couple of these guys we knew were going to be good. Most of them, I don't think we really had any idea just how good they were going to be this year. So we've got 10 guys. I have a 10-sided die. We're going to roll it, and we're going to go by position number. However, we only have two outfielders, so 9 is going to be the starting pitcher, and 10 is going to be relief pitcher.
Perfect.
Okay, so you ready for this?
Yep.
We're starting with our starting pitcher. It's
Starting
fitting.
pitcher. Wow.
I'll let you go ahead and take this one.
Our surprise starting pitcher is the Cubs' Javier Assad. So, for some background on Javier Assad from this year, he wasn't even slated to be in the starting rotation to start the year. He only made it due to an injury to Jamison Tyon. So he makes the rotation out of spring training. And here we are on May 21st, and there's not even a question whether he's going to remain in the rotation um, going forward because he's been out of this world. He's been great. I mean, the numbers just are kind of amazing. They're just shocking because I don't have them up because you tricked me here. Uh,
So he's got 48 innings through 9 starts, a 1.4 ERA, a strikeout rate of 21.6%, and a walk rate of 7.7. Average against for Javier Assad, sub 200. He's holding opposing hitters below the Mendoza level at a 197 with a whip of just 1.03. So he's absolutely dominating. He's not really walking all that many guys. He's definitely not giving up many base hits. And he has not been a victim of the long ball. I believe
so
he has
there's
given
definitely
up.
stuff you can point to, like the home run rate, which is super low, and some of the expected numbers say he shouldn't be doing so well, and BABIP is low, and all these different things. But I think we need to just appreciate what he's actually done. Um, that actually stretches back to last year. People don't realize this. Going back to July 1st, he has the best ERA in the league, 198. So it's not like a flash in the pan. Maybe it won't. It's obviously not going to continue at this level, but I think we kind of have to give him some credit for what he's doing here. And the hard thing to figure out with Assad is how is he actually doing this? Because if you look at the numbers, the traditional stuff that we like to lean on with pitchers like swinging strike rate and fastball velocity and all these things, like traditional stuff that we look at, he's not a standout in any one single category. There's no number you can point to and be like, oh yeah, he's amazing at doing this specific thing. I think it's just a combination of having the best command he's ever had with that really low walk rate. I think it's like about 6%,
7%. Yeah.
7%, and being able to mix four pitches really well.
And he's missing barrels is
And
the
he's missing
key.
barrels.
Is
Yeah,
he's
so
only had 9 barrels against him this season, and he's about half as many innings as he pitched last year. Last year, in just over 100 innings, 28 barrels. This year, through about 50 innings, only 9. So that's a 6% barrel rate,
yeah.
which is, for a pitcher, that's pretty darn good. His hard hit rate against is only 37, which maybe 37's a little. It's not. Yeah, I guess what's about normal? 42 to 45?
Something in there, yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's doing. I think that you may have hit the nail on the head with figuring out like what it is.
What's his ground ball rate? That's what I'm curious about.
It's not super high. He's not a true
46%. So he is ground ball more than anything else.
But I still don't consider 46% to be a ground ball pitcher. I think he's more like just neutral.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because I guess between. Yeah, so he's definitely keeping the ball low because his line drive and ground ball rates combined make up about 2/3 of the contact against him. So he is able to. Does he throw a sinker? I'm assuming he throws a sinker.
Yeah, he does.
I'm guessing that is his most effective pitch, just based on what I'm seeing here in ground ball and line drive rates and hard hit rates. It seems like he's effectively using a sinker down, and he's just getting everyone to top the ball.
Yeah.
And even if they can drive it, they're not able to elevate it.
Yeah.
So.
That is that's Javier Assad, and I guess like the Cubs are really happy that they've got him in the rotation, and it's kind of like um he's kind of similar to some of the other pitchers that they have coming up the pipe, and it's almost like a methodology, organizational philosophy that is helping pitchers like Javier Assad succeed, because he's not a guy that was popping up on one single top 100 list ever in his career, and he's been in the organization since 2016. He's never been a hyped up guy. It's something that's clicked recently in the last like year, maybe 2 years, where he can be the pitcher that he is now, and
Well, and
that's pretty cool.
The thing that kind of stands out to me is he's doing it in a very Kyle Hendricksy way. It seems like he doesn't have a very like high velocity fastball. He's not slow by any means. Like he throws about 94. Average is 92 on his four seamer. Touches 94, probably 95 at times.
He does.
He doesn't strike out a ton of guys.
Yeah.
So it's like he's very much in that kind of Kyle Hendricksy way, but still a bit more modern, not relying on purely pinpoint accuracy like a Hendricks, like a Greg Maddux was late in his career, sort of thing. So it's really interesting that that's how a lot of the Cubs pitchers that are coming up in the system tend to be. They're not absolute flamethrower Hunter Green type guys out there that are a little bit wild but overpowering everybody. It's they're effective, they can control their pitches, and they can throw with authority and movement.
Yeah, this is a bigger question that maybe we can talk about some other time, but you almost wonder if it's intentional that they are targeting guys like that, or is it just a personnel thing where these are the guys that they have, so they're getting the most out of them, or does it play into limiting injuries, as we've seen the rise in pitcher injuries, especially from high velocity guys?
Yeah, so I would be really curious to like have the opportunity to ask like Jed or Counsell or anyone in the front office for that matter, just kind of what the overall mindset is. Because I don't really follow the Cubs draft too much, or they're like college or undrafted signings or anything like that. So I don't really know if those are the guys they tend to go after in the draft. But I would be really curious to see, because that would give you an idea of like, if they're targeting this type of pitcher in college, then yeah, that's probably what their game plan is. But if they're targeting the high velocity guys and these are the guys that pan out, then I think it's just a matter of this is what we got and it's effective. So, but we should move on to a different position. So we're going to go to first base. And first base, probably the most underrated first baseman in Major League Baseball the past 2 seasons. Or season and a quarter, I guess now. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I don't think most baseball fans know who this guy is.
Ryan O'Hearn. And if you're like me and you think of Ryan O'Hearn when he was with the Royals, you're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. He sucks.
Yeah, that it's not that Ryan O'Hearn, but it is that Ryan O'Hearn.
It's that guy.
Yeah.
But as soon as he left Kansas City, he found something. I don't know what it was, but he last year went from having a career average of about 220 and hit 289 over 368 plate appearances, 112 games. So he's not a every at bat, everyday player. That's not how he was used last year. And I think even now, that's not how he's used.
Even now, yeah, he's a strict platoon player. He never starts against a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah, and so against righties, he's incredibly effective. He was helped out by BABIP a bit last year, pretty high at 340, but he hit 289, 322, 480. Struck out only 22%, the lowest of his career. Also didn't take very many walks last year, only 4%. However, this year, he's found the walks again. He's walking 10% of the time. He's cut the strikeout rate into a third so far through. I mean, I watched him. I'm watching him this week. Unfortunately, no, it's not a typo.
Yeah, 8.8%, 8.3% strikeout rate just kind of jumps off the Fangraphs page because it's not anywhere near the strikeout rates that he's had throughout his career. It's kind of amazing.
With a 287 average, which matches last year, he is not getting unnaturally lucky with the BABIP that's right there in line with his average. Getting on base even more than last year, which makes sense with the walks, and slugging for more. He has 6 home runs already through 120 plate appearances. That is basically on pace for, if he had the same amount of at-bats as he did last year, he would have 18 home runs this year versus the 14 that he had last year. So his power stroke is up. His walk rate is up. His strikeout rate is down. And he's hitting for a consistent average with what he did last year, mostly because he's only facing right-handed batters or right-handed pitchers. But he has been a huge part of this Orioles team that is second in the division at 29-16. This is a good team, and he's been one of the effective players on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that this guy went from being, he barely played, really.
Didn't he get DFA'd from Kansas City?
I'm guessing he did, yeah, because he was, one of the worst hitters in the league. Not that he played a lot, but he hadn't really showed that he was even a major league bench bat, and now he's found himself in a really nice role as a member of the Orioles. He hits right in the middle of the lineup. I mean, he's key to the team. He just goes totally under the radar because of the other guys that they have and all the star power and all the youth.
Yeah. And he doesn't really have a defensive position. Like he's purely essentially a platoon DH at this point. But hey, that's now a job that exists thanks to the DH being in both leagues now. So find your spot, run with it, he's doing exactly that. So
Yeah.
to a 145 WRC plus, absolutely killing it. Ooh. Oh, I threw my dice on the floor. That is double zeros. We are going to the relief pitcher.
All right. So our relief pitcher is Mason Miller.
This is one of those guys that I said we knew was going to be good. We just didn't know how good. So
yeah, these numbers are just out of this world. Number one number is his fastball velocity, 101.3 miles per hour on average.
That's the number one number. I was going to go with 54.3.
54.3.
His strikeout rate.
Unbelievable stuff. Like, so he's doing Edwin Diaz from 2 years ago stuff. Just lights out, and he even has like the control to match. It's not like he's walking a bunch of guys. Just this guy is an all-world closer, and it's going to be super interesting, I think, to see if the A's can find a trading partner at midseason for this guy, because they could potentially get back a great haul.
Yeah, because Mason Miller is in his second season in the major leagues, and I think he might honestly still be rookie eligible. No. Too much service time. But innings pitched wise, still really low. But so you get basically 4.5 years of Mason Miller if you trade for him. Is a reliever going to last that long? Maybe, maybe not. But it's a trade for an elite closer with elite stuff who has broken analytical statistics. There is a number here on his Fangraphs page. It is not physically possible for it to be below zero, except it is. His FIP, his fielding independent pitching, has him at negative 0.01.
Yeah. So by that metric, we're talking about the best pitcher
ever
on in the league right now.
It means if he didn't have a defense behind him, he would do better than he's doing with a defense behind him.
Yeah.
That's what that's saying, which makes no sense.
Who had like the lowest season-long FIP ever? I'd like to know that.
I don't know. We'll have to. For an individual season, I don't know that I have a good way to find that out, but unless
we can find it probably all time.
Is FIP? Yeah, we can find it all time pretty easily. Is FIP a Fangraph stat, or is it just like a total stat? Would that be on Baseball Reference?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, if it is, we could probably find it then. But yeah, no, Mason Miller is absolutely insane. I feel bad for him that he's with the A's, and if he doesn't get traded, he's going to be playing in Sacramento next year. That dude doesn't deserve a demotion to minor league stadium. I mean, no offense to the River Cats, because I kind of enjoy going to watch games there, but he doesn't deserve to go back. All right. What do you say we move on to... What would that be? Third base. Another Oakland A. This doesn't make any sense. Why do we have multiple Oakland A's on guys that are surprising us in a good way? This guy, Abraham Toro. He's been around the league a little bit. He came up with the I think with the Astros. Or was he traded to the Astros?
I don't remember.
But
yeah, he came up with the Astros.
Came up to the majors with the Astros. Oh, drafted in 2016. Yep, there we go. Was traded mid-series to the Mariners, where he just went to the other dugout the next day, put on a different jersey, and played on the same field. Then played in Milwaukee last year, and now found his way to Oakland. He's never had like regular playing time. Seattle was probably where he had the most. And in Seattle, he did not do particularly well. He hit 185 with a, what is that, 563 OPS in 109 games for Seattle in 2022. That's Ryan O'Hearn on the Royals level bad.
I was just gonna say, like, it's similar to Ryan O'Hearn in that he never did get that much playing time, and maybe it's always the chicken or the egg kind of thing with playing time. You
I
have to
mean,
play
O'Hearn got a
well.
lot of playing time. He was the everyday starter at first
He
base.
didn't though. Like, look at the games played. It was not very many. Any of those years, I think he had 1 year where he played over 100 games. I mean, it's the same thing with Toro, and now he gets full run with Oakland, and maybe he failed the first time with Seattle when he got this chance, and we see that all over the place when a guy like doesn't succeed right away, and then second crack at it does a lot better, and maybe that's what we're seeing with Toro because I
Yeah,
think he was supposed to be like this contact first type guy that do a little bit of everything, and he's doing it now.
yeah, and he's doing it to the tune of a 395 average with 4 home runs,
395.
steals, a 17% strikeout rate. Like he's living up to exactly what you said. He's a contact first guy who has not been a slouch as far as power is concerned. I mean, he's OPSing like about, would that be 800 roughly?
Yep, just under
So
800.
like 798. So not exactly a slouch with the power there either. Mostly in the form of doubles, but hey, it counts. So very, very pleased with Abraham Toro so far this year. How about we go to? Ooh, okay. So the outfielder that I suggested yesterday, Jurickson Profar.
I think the Jerks Profar story starts in roughly 2010 when he was the number one prospect, and also in 2011 when he was the number one prospect,
And also
and
in
also in
2012 when he was
2012
the number
when he
one
was the number
prospect.
one prospect. So, guy has had insane amounts of hype. There's not what's the list of players that have been number one player in base prospect in baseball for 3 years in a row? It's probably like
Uh,
Jurickson Profar and list.
and Jackson Holiday.
He hasn't even been pro for 3 years.
Oh, well, then he's only at 2. But
Exactly. Yeah. So the point is, it doesn't happen very often, and unfortunately, Jurickson Profar did not really live up to the hype at all. He was like ravaged by injuries with Texas. Then he's bounced to other teams. Like he played a year in Oakland. He played several years with the Padres, where he kind of seemed like he found his footing as like a solid player. He settled in as a role player, maybe a part time player, can fill in a pinch as an everyday guy. And this year, I think he signed pretty late with the Padres once again.
yeah, I think it was
And
basically right before opening day, or right before they went to Korea for their first game.
yeah, I remember he signed really late last year uh, with Colorado. He didn't even make it through the season before he got cut, I think. And then did he go back to the Padres at the end of last year?
I think so.
Yeah. So then he came back to the Padres once again, and this is the best Jerkson profile we've ever seen by a long shot. It's kind of crazy. He's hitting 339, 426, 518 with 7 home runs and 3 steals. That's a 176 WRC plus.
And it's the best bad defense he's ever played.
Yeah. So all the stars have aligned for Jerkson Profar like over a decade after he was this top prospect. Um, I don't even know what to say about this. Like,
It
this is so
doesn't make any
freaky.
sense to me, is the main
Yeah.
thing.
This
Like,
is beyond sufficiently surprised. This is
he
like
debuted in the majors at 19. He's breaking out. I don't want to say he's fully breaking out because this is probably most definitely a fluke. If he's doing this at the end of the season, I'll dye my hair blonde or something. I don't know. You could pick a punishment if he maintains this. Uh,
So yeah, I think we have like a healthy level of skepticism here about Jerks and Profar's performance, but wouldn't it be so cool if he kept it up for like even this whole year or something?
yeah, I mean, if he legitimately breaks out at the age of 31, that will be wild. I'm here
Yeah.
for it. Like, but it's just not something that anybody would expect.
No,
And if you
not at
say
all.
that you expected it, you're a liar. You should probably get a fire extinguisher for those pants of yours.
Yes.
All right, so I believe we have 4 left, which means that the die is probably going to give me a repeat. It did not. We're actually running really strong here.
There we go.
Uh, so we're going to go over to our catcher position.
All right. Our catcher is another re-breakout guy, maybe a guy that's having a late career resurgence in Salvador Perez. Um, where this came from, also, I'm a little confused, but he's been raking 341, 404, 565 with 9 home runs. And what he's done is actually been able to go back to his young days of making lots of contact and not striking out a lot. He's cut his strikeout rate from 23.3 last year to 16% this year, and that's helped him um, just pick up more hits. And I think power's never really been a concern for Salvi.
No,
It's
he's
always been
absolutely
like,
massive. The dude is just he's a pile of muscle is all he is.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So the hitting for power, no surprise. But in recent last 2 years now, I mean, he's just been like a 23 homer guy, so a little bit less than what we've seen in years past. This year, he's kind of back on track and also having more base hits along with it.
yeah,
I don't know.
and the other thing that you kind of left out there, so he cut his strikeout rate by 7%. He also doubled his walk rate.
Now that's maybe the more surprising part about him. If you know anything about his plate discipline, it's it's bottom barrel. You can't do much worse than
Yeah,
what Salvi's done over his career.
he's not I don't think he's taken a pitch since 2012. And then now all of a sudden he's got a 7% walk rate.
Yeah,
Like
that's
his
interesting.
previous career high walk rate was in 39 games in 2011 with 4.4%.
Could that be really what is unlocked Salvi? Because
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
now decided to be like somewhat patient. He always had pretty good bat to ball skills. It's just the fact that now he's not probably swinging at balls
yeah.
and
And so he's able to
making bad
square up.
contact. Yeah.
What's his contact rates looking or his so his hard hit rate is up to basically 2021 levels, over 51%.
Yeah, that's
Um
great.
his
Barrel rate is
barrel rate is
15.7.
also right up there with about 2021.
Yeah.
Where's zone? Where's that at? Did I miss it?
Zone contact, which is always an interesting one to
Okay.
look at.
Outside swing rate is actually still at like 50%.
That's horrible. That's amazing that he's doing this.
His
I
swing.
thought there
Oh
was
no,
like a
sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. 47%. Still really high.
yeah.
His outside contact rate is actually the difference. His
He's making both.
outside the zone contact is up from an average of like high 50s, about 60% to 68. So he's actually making more contact on bad pitches and just turning it into something.
Okay. I was trying to give him credit for an approach change. I don't think he actually has one.
Uh yeah, and his CSW is pretty high. His
Well,
CSW is like 27%, which is the highest it's ever been.
I
Second
see
highest it's ever been.
23. I see 23 for the
Oh
CSW.
crap! I have it. I had my cursor over it, so it highlighted it. So I assumed that was the total. My bad. Yeah, it's 23%. So he's his swinging strike rate is down. His called strike rate is the same, and he's somehow making more contact with bad pitches when he swings.
Yeah, so maybe it's just a fluke that this is happening, but it's cool. It's a cool fluke, and the Royals have gotten off to a very hot start, probably because he's been a big part of that.
So two things here. One, I'm not gonna fully believe that he's this good until he steals a base,
Okay.
because he has 6 career stolen bases, all in separate seasons. He does not have one this year. In 2021, when he was really good, he did have a stolen base. So I won't believe it until he steals a base. 2, should what he's doing right now make me reconsider my stance on him not being a Hall of Famer?
Probably not.
Okay.
He's gonna have to keep this up for a few more years.
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
You
Because I've gotten into a couple arguments about Salvador Perez and his resume.
I feel like you bring that up every time we talk about him.
I do. Yeah. All right, so we got 3 left. Where are we gonna go next? Well, we got our first repeat, so I'll just let you pick. Where do you want to go?
We'll do Mike Talkman here.
All right.
So Mike Talkman,
Michael Nelson Talkman, right?
Michael Nelson Talkman has been. We talked about him in spring training as a guy that was guaranteed a roster spot for the first time in his career, and he was supposed to be a bench guy. He was supposed to like play some DH some of the time. Outfield's full of regulars. Cubs have been hit hard by injuries all season, and Mike Talkman's turned himself into an everyday player, and he's done that by his very selective approach at the plate. He is not anything like Salvador Perez. He never swings the bat. Like, he's passive, sometimes to a fault. Um, he's got a 14.5% walk rate this year. Um, and if you ever watch Mike Talkman taking that bat, they're always like 4, 5, 6, 7 pitches because of the way he swings the bat. He's literally trying to poke every ball to left field.
So here's a fun little stat nugget for you. Mike Talkman's swinging strike rate, 9.7%. His called strike rate, 13%. He is 50% more likely to take a called strike than he is to swing and whiff.
Yeah. And I'd be curious to see, like, in the new bat tracking, how short his swing is. I feel like it's pretty short because he never really tries to pull anything. He's always just trying to shoot the ball the other way. Hits a lot of foul balls the other way, and then he draws his walk. That's like the typical Mike Talkman at bat. He's hit 4 home runs this year. He's chipped in 3 steals. It's just overall not a flashy like batting line or anything, but with all the walks and the runs that he scores, just becomes like a super valuable player for a team.
Well, and the thing that makes him like the most valuable is that he's able to give you everyday player production, like good everyday player production at really mostly right field, but for a team that has lost Cody Bellinger for like 3 or 4 weeks,
say like 2 or 3, but
2 or 3, Seiya Suzuki for how long?
2 or 3 weeks.
All right, and then there was another outfielder that got hurt, wasn't it?
Hap has missed a little bit of time as well.
Okay, so yeah, like all 3 of the main outfielders have gone down, and Talkman has stepped in, and he's more than held his own. Like, he's kept this team. I don't want to say he's kept the team afloat, but this is a team that has very much struggled with injuries, not just in the outfield. Like, Dansby Swanson's hurt, Nico Horner's hurt, Christopher Morel, I think, was hurt for a little bit.
Everybody's been hurt, yeah.
Yeah, so like this is a team that very much needs some stability in the lineup, and Mike Talkman has been able to provide that.
good to have good backups.
Yeah. All right, let's go over to second base, where we're actually going back to 2018. The worst pitcher in the league, Lucas Giolito. The next year, how'd that commercial go? Do you remember that commercial?
I do remember it. I don't
Okay,
remember the exact
but
words.
now he's a Cy Young contender.
Yeah.
I'll have to text Ashley. She knows that commercial by heart. But basically, the next guy is the hitter version of Jake Arrieta. Or not Jake Arrieta, Lucas Giolito. Sorry, I was reading Jake Arrieta announced he's going to be in Home Run Derby X this year.
Oh.
So I've been thinking about Jake Arrieta hitting. So sorry. The hitting version of Lucas Giolito. There we go. And that is Bryce Terang. He was one of the absolute worst qualified hitter. I think he was the worst qualified hitter last year.
So technically he did not qualify. I'm
Oh.
looking this up, but if he were to qualify, he would have been the worst qualified hitter.
I'm surprised 450 ABs didn't have him qualified.
502.
Oh. All right.
502 PA.
So he was close to qualifying.
Yeah.
But about 50 plate appearances or 54 plate appearances short. But last year, the 218 average, 300 slug, a horribly small ISO, no power there. It was all singles.
Powerless, hapless.
He did take some walks. Like he walks to the tune of like 8%. So pretty good there. Doesn't really strike out. But so he's basically a contact guy that couldn't get a hit if he tried. And I think he tried a lot. If I watched some games, I saw him at the plate. He tried. Didn't work out. This year, all of a sudden, Bryce Terang is batting 314, 369, 431 with 2 home runs. He has 18 steals. He's cut his strikeout rate by 7% from an already pretty low 21%. Like, he's definitely getting BABIP help here. Like 359. That's not nothing.
Yeah,
so he's getting lucky.
I don't credit it all to the BABIP.
I don't credit it all. Like this is substantial improvement just from just his. I don't know if it's his approach, his swing, but he's definitely more comfortable with the plate. That's the main thing. The 314 is the thing that I'm thinking is probably not the truest number. It'll even out over the course of the rest of the year.
The thing I see in the numbers is that he's not trying to like hit for power. He realizes that he doesn't have power. So last year he hit 39.4% fly balls. This year he's cut that down to 27 and he's just hitting ground balls. And those ground balls typically are going to find more holes and result in more base hits than the fly balls will. And when he had no power, he wasn't hitting home runs. He wasn't finding the alleys for doubles or anything like that. This year, it's all about just making more contact and as much contact as he can, and more balls will find holes. And that's worked out for him. Like, I don't know if it's going to – I don't think Bryce Terang's a true 314 hitter, but this is more like the player he was supposed to be based on like scouting reports and stuff.
So I decided to just pull it up real quick while we were talking about it. He has an average bat speed that is about 5 mile an hour slower than the major league average. It is 66.9 miles per hour. His contact rate, or his squared up contact rate, is about 7% higher than the major league average.
Go.
And his but his swing length is the main thing. He has an incredibly short swing. He's just getting the barrel on the ball. And in 208 competitive swings with 95 balls hit into play, he has a swing length that averages 6 feet as opposed to 7.3. And we'll definitely hear probably next week go through a little bit more what this bat tracking thing that I'm referencing is, because it's very, very new. It actually came out last week on Baseball Savant, and I don't fully understand it, but I know what some of these things are. So we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, so I wish that we had this data from last year because I'm really curious if anything changed. But a lot of the numbers that I'm seeing here are basically Luis Arraez type numbers as far as his swing. So, but he's also got the second most steals in the major leagues behind.
And he's a fantastic defender, so he does plenty of things well. And with the bat coming around, like we're talking about, like an all-star type player, all-star season at least.
Yeah, and he's showing right now that he's not like a never gonna have a home run ever type guy. Like he's got 2 already this year. Like he's gonna luck into some home runs, probably about 10 a year is my guess. So yeah, a fantastic breakout season from Bryce Terang here. Our last guy, and this is the other one that really doesn't surprise anyone, but it's just how good he is that is the surprise here, and that is the Baltimore Orioles shortstop Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, he's been out of this world. He leads the league in home runs with 16 already in 45 games. No sophomore slump for Gunnar.
Yeah. And the Cardinals are playing the Orioles right now as we're recording this, and that's this week's series. And I get terrified every time Gunnar comes up to the plate because he's got 4 home runs in 4 days, including one off Sonny Gray yesterday. And he's not going to stop. He's a menace. I'm going to put up a wanted poster with a reward of $10 for anyone who can get him to come onto the pod and talk to us. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about him other than just he's amazing.
Yeah, I think the only reason I put him on this list is just the sheer amount of power that he's actually reaching. Maybe it's just a hot streak. Maybe he cools off a little bit. But I always thought of Gunnar as a guy with good power, maybe like 20 to 25 home run power. But now he's looking like a guy that could be like 35 home run hitter.
Well, and that's where I think you and then at least the Fangraphs prospect report guys, I don't know who exactly is the guys that do it. They actually graded him as a future 70 game power, which is like 40 home runs, if not more.
Showing now.
Yeah. But basically they projected his game and raw power to be the same. So they think he could legitimately just reach all of his raw power with that swing. And so the other thing that's interesting about Gunnar, and this is from yesterday, I believe, he was in the batting cage hitting, and someone's like, why are you hitting in the cage? You're absolutely dominating, and you've hit 16 home runs already. And he's like, something feels off. It's like, what do you mean something feels off? He's like, well, I want it to feel absolutely perfect, and it doesn't feel absolutely perfect. So I'm trying to fix it. This dude is hitting 270 with 16 home runs through 200 plate appearances. Like, he's like the best hitter in the league right now, or the best power hitter in the league right now. What do you mean something feels off? I don't get it. What if you fix it? What's gonna happen?
We don't know.
Is a black hole gonna open in Baltimore? We all get sucked into it?
Yes.
Good Lord. Stop it.
That's
Save
amazing.
some for the rest of us, Gunnar.
He's a maniac. Yeah.
Yeah. Or give some to Jackson. He needs some right now. Some confidence and some black magic.
Yes.
Did I just accuse someone else of black magic? I just realized I'm a Cardinal fan. That it just seems a little bit All right, you got anything else on any of these guys or any honorable mentions? Because that's all I've got.
Yeah, just to wrap things up, like we're basically at the end of May here, and that's when you start looking and thinking, we're not so early in the season. We are early, but these things matter. And the fact that these guys can get off to these starts, I mean, some of them are probably not going to carry on what they've been doing, but some of them will. And I think it's cool to point them out and just recognize the surprising guys, because there always are surprises every year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So thank you very, very much for hanging out with us today. We will be back very soon with a new episode. And we will see you then. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.